Hi, today in this video, I'm going to explain you about a case study project in context to AML, which is called anti-money laundering. This is the case study which I'm explaining exclusively for the benefit of the people who are into business analysis, because understanding the domain, understanding the case study or a problem, subsequently providing the solutions is one of the key and important role as a business analyst one has to be performed with. In this regard, how to understand the case study, how to read and how to understand. Subsequently, what kind of solution are we going to provide? And what are the other modules are we going to deliver in context to the project is what something being a business analyst one has to be performed with. So it's not only about the technical skills one has to adopt. At the same time, acquiring some domain knowledge is also one of the key and important element one has to be knowledgeable with. So in this regard, today I'm taking a case study which is relating to AML, stands for anti-money laundering. So as we all know, in the industry across the world, in context to the financial institutions, when online transactions were becoming inevitable, even financial crimes, online financial crimes, etc., are also more. So financial institutions wants to understand about the kind of financial crimes, what exactly are they facing. Subsequent measures to be taken to minimize the risk is something which people have to accept it with. This is where generally financial institutions across the world, which people wants some kind of solution for that, right? So in regard to that, I'm just making a video on anti-money laundering, which is called AML. Of course, as part of my domain training, I am giving on banking, capital markets, investment banking, right? So at the same time, AML, right? So when I'm giving this domain training, domain-based training, especially for the business analyst teams or people who wants to acquire knowledge on domain and all, as in part of it, even I'll be giving some case studies and making people to work on that to get some live exposure. In this regard, I hope this is being useful to many of the people. Now, here, the first one I'm explaining about the business situation of, this is all what are the business situation I'm presenting here. This business situation is all something from the financial institutions perspective, because whenever there are financial institutions manage their financial transactions online, all that. So even due to the financial crimes which are happening online, they wants to address these things, right? So these are all something which they wants to address. Hence, it's always important for them to address these kind of problems as earliest, wherein by understanding about the regulatory requirements, at the same time, which are more complex, diverse, and costly, right? So what are we going to provide solution in context to that category? When there are any kind of money laundering initiatives, especially happens in this regard, these factors are impacting on the detection accuracy as well as the kind of surveillance against to that responses agility, right? So all these things are the factors behind this, right? So because accuracy detection is becoming much difficult nowadays due to that, as in when we don't have, and we as in when lack of surveillance and all that, so which is impacting the financial it impacting on the financial transactions, which may leads to this financial crimes, etc., all that. In regard to that, as I specified here, especially financial institutions and all, everything are challenging, are facing multiple challenges in context to the these financial crimes, etc. All that, wherein it also consumes disproportionate amounts of vital investigating resources and all that. At the same time, it impacts on the compliance cost, impacting customer relationships, all that. In this regard, any financial institutions want some kind of a solution. Of course, it's a complete solution, but that solution must be deliver a powerful transaction monitoring. At the same time, whatever the competent analytical capabilities which are required for us to optimize AML and all everything is what something which being a business analyst we need to understand from the context of the business situation. In context to the business situation is what something which we need to be understood with. So when being a BA, whenever, especially in the context of business analyst, I'm saying, of course, this case studies can be useful even for the technical people as well to understand from the functional side, not only pretending to only the role of a BA, even for people who are working on the banking domain, IT domain, all that. Especially in the context of BA, it is more useful. The reason I'm addressing BA more. So if you are a BA, addressing the business situation is one of the prime and important element, because the kind of solutions are we going to provide, where are we going to provide, what kind of situation customer is in now, right? So I'm talking about the business situation is what something which we have to be studied. So business situation is something which explain us about what kind of real scenario which customers are and what kind of solutions in high level note is what something which they're expecting. This is point number one. In context to that, the next I have given solution in context to the high level solution, right? So based on the business scenario or the situation, this is not something detailed, right? So detailed solution, what features, what modules, what integrations to be made. This is all something being a BA, we have to be addressed with. But when it comes to the solution from the high level point of view, as a role of a business analyst, we don't come up with solution directly. There are multiple solutions we may come across based on the feasibility from the context of budget, from the context of technology, operational, regulatory feasibilities, all that. What kind of solution is something useful and suitable is what something will be decided later on. This is how generally when it comes to the role of a BA, whenever we are addressing, we'll come up with. So what are the solution I am giving? But here in context to this, there was a single solution which were identified, which is on a high level note, the kind of single solution which majorly combines what are the financial crimes as well as compliance, transaction monitoring, and analytical solutions. These are all the solutions which we are going to provide by combining all that, because compliance, transaction monitoring is also important by including the regulatory standards, policies, procedures. Followed by that, what are the solution are you going to provide must be an analytical approach, analytical point of view. This majorly results in empowering any financial institution to leverage expanded data resources and all that. At the same time, even for artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities, which majorly effectively useful for us to monitor the transactions, responding to the events and all that stuff. These are the two major results we can see in context to the situation of the financial institutions, which usually faces. They require two results. What kind of results? One is about effectively monitoring transactions and responding to events. These are the two capabilities which they wants to be addressed, which they wants to acquire with. So wherein this continuously discover different risks which are emerging, right? So whatever the kind of new criminal patterns uh, by addressing all that. So wherein whatever the solutions you are going to develop or developing some new models into the production is what something which from a high level solution point of view is what something we are coming up with. in context to the case study which I'm explaining to you. Next, from the technical perspective, because solutions normally we can categorize it into two different parts in a simple note. One is about business solution, second is a technical solution. Business solution means against to the business situation or the problem, what business solution were identified by us being a BA is what something which we do. But when it comes to the technical solution, how this can be implemented, right? So what kind of hardware and software required? Operating system, is it required something an on-premise solution to be developed? Or is it a technical or it is a cloud application? On-premise application, we have our own advantages and disadvantages where infrastructure cost, operational cost, everything will be in higher level. But when it comes to the cloud environment, it has its own pros and cons, where cloud services, where infrastructure cost won't be of much higher, right? So infrastructure cost will be limited. There won't be any infrastructure cost, of course, in cloud applications. This is all something comes on with a technical solution point of view. So understanding about the technical solution is also one of the key and important element one has to understand, right? So when we are developing a technical solution for this AML part, where we are going to build a data model which is designed specifically for all the financial crime applications and all, which regularly updates and recognize the industry. At the same time, these are all having a possibility as well as ability to do effectively detect and prevent anti-money laundering as well as financial crimes, all that. So for that, generally it's all including all the graphical model representation like first graph data model, which majorly enables the visualization of complex money laundering networks. And at the same time, it also makes easy for investigators to identify the key players in connectivity connections, right? So all this. So in context to the technical solution, developing a data model and building a data model, designing a data model is a high level note. So from the technical perspective, even because nowadays it's not only about business analyst, is not only from domain perspective, understanding the technical terminologies and jargons were also required. So that's how the technical BA or business systems analyst, this is how the transformation were going on. So this is what something which we need to understand from the technical solution from the high level point of view. Now, in what way customer is going to be benefited here, right? So because of the AML product or a solution you are going to provide, which majorly provides key stakeholders and as well as regulators to have a 360-degree view of financial activity, so that we will be knowing about right from end to end. So the complete 360-degree view of financial activity. At the same time, the kind of customer risk, which is leads to the transparency of detected and as well as investigating potential money laundering behaviors, right? So these are all something which from the customer perspective, right? So the kind of benefits, what is that are they going to get? So that ultimately this gains visibility into the risk which is associated with the customer as well as the kind of risk which is associated with whom and where they're doing business, right? So all these things are the benefits which uh, customer can achieve. Next, when the kind of solution it provides an automated and comprehensive and consistent surveillance of all accounts, which is relating to the customers, etc., and all that, so that any financial institution can monitor customer transaction continuously. At the same time, by using different customer historical informations and accounts, peer profiles, and all, so that it provides a holistic view of all the activities, is what something which being a customer can be benefited out of it. At the same time, there will be a data model, as I told you, right? So by creating some data models and creating some data insights, etc., all that, whatever the financial crimes related data, such as work lists and as well as data sets from the ICJs and all these things will also be possible over here. Now, when it comes to the implementation as far as the usage in the real world when this is being used by a data scientist, because effectively managing the data is what something which data scientist has to be taken care of all the data, right? So analyzing the data, assessing the risk which is involved in it, right? So by using different machine learning tools, something like Amazon SageMaker, right? So SageMaker, at the same time TensorFlow. These are all something machine learning, artificial intelligence related I'm talking about. Because AI related, artificial intelligence, machine learning is one part of artificial intelligence. In this machine learning, there are a lot of tools nowadays we are using, like TensorFlow, Amazon SageMaker. Amazon AWS has a tool called SageMaker, Amazon SageMaker. And so data scientists can use the software graph capabilities and all, which were there possible, having a possibility to develop and deploy graph-based analytical models, which are useful and visualize them to complex money laundering networks and making easier for investigators to identify key players and connectivities, all these. So these are the different benefits from the data scientist point of view. If anybody is using, is what something which they will be doing. Now, next question, when it comes to addressing need of technical and business stakeholders, right? So how this is can be addressed, the need of technical and business stakeholders, because business stakeholders can be classified into two parts. One is external stakeholders and second is internal stakeholders. External stakeholders who are supporting us from outside. Internal stakeholders can be the people who are directly involving in the project. I can say technical people, right? So this is technical stakeholders, and business stakeholders who is impacting on the business decisions, all that. In context to the solution are we going to provide from the solutions deliverable point of view. So the kind of advanced techniques which are using like semantic and properly graph analytics, at the same time transaction flow analytics, followed by the kind of machine learning tools, as is some time back I have stated, right? So all these things are useful for any technical and as well as business stakeholders when they are about to know about, right? So as far as the need of the business itself is concerned, these are the different advanced techniques in context to the solution we are going to provide. Next point, we need to know how is this useful as well as impacting positivity in context to the customer. So impacting from the positive point of view, I'm saying, right? Impacting is not only negative. So how is this useful and impacting positive to the customers? Wherein due to the Qlient, so the kind of solution are we going to provide? Having a facility where an extensive library of reading ready to use scenarios which are ready to use, wherein whatever the artificial intelligence modules are we going to create. So wherein we have extensive library ready to use scenarios if we develop. So those scenarios are different scenarios, like because it was given already, right? Here you can see there are three different scenarios I have given, right? So identifying suspicious transactions is one scenario. At the same time, detecting money laundering networks is the second scenario. Third scenario about predicting potential money laundering risk. These are the three important scenarios which must be addressed, is what something which we are addressing, which will impact as well as useful for the customers when they are working towards providing, reducing the risk of AML, right? So financial, these things, all that. Now, this is helpful for organizations. They can use the scenarios out of box, wherein these are all something which can be integrated with, easily adapt to their specific needs. What are the specific needs and all everything, where they can adopt this. And the kind of scenarios which are being used on the industry, the kind of best practices, majorly by considering and changing the regulatory requirements and all, the kind of solution you are going to provide enables automated tuning of system parameters and models. This will be helpful to optimize performance and reduce number of false positive generated, right? So everything are the advantage from the usage perspective for any of the customer which they can do it with. Now, these are different modules, like whatever the entity resolution, supervised and unsupervised. These are all the modules which are the integrations which normally, being a business analyst, we need to come up with, right? So when you are working on the case study, when you are working on the project, understanding the business situation or the problem. So what kind of high level solution are we going to provide? To what extent it is something useful? To implement that, what are the different modules? Is it something required for us to implement? What kind of integrations we want to make, right? So that to have a better effectiveness. This is what something which, being a business analyst, you have to address with, because role of a business analyst, as we know, we try to understand the business situation or the scenarios, providing subsequent solutions, providing solutions for the customer is what something which is essentially required. So for that, understanding the domain from the context of AML or any of the domain, but in context to our case study, understanding the domain and how it works, right? So that sort of understanding, deep understanding over the domain will also be helpful for a business analyst and as well as for other profiles. So that we understood the pain points of the customer which they were facing, so that whatever the solution are we going to provide, will provide them a valuable output. This solution may not be immediately addressing the present problem what they are facing, but we have to consider even the future requirements as well, because based on the business objectives and goals what they wants to achieve. The reason why, it's not only about the business objective, business situation which they were in now, but we need to address the future, what kind of business goals and objectives which they wants to achieve. That also we need to consider when we are providing the solutions. Based on that, what kind of modules, right? So what kind of integrations are we going to do? This is what something which, being a business analyst, one has to be understood with, right? So this is what something which this case study is all about. So I hope this case study is useful to the people who are applying jobs as a business analyst, or who wants to learn business analysis from the investment banking or capital markets or banking or AML related anti-money laundering side, right? So if whoever wants to transform their careers, who wants to have some knowledge over this from the practical exposure point of view, I don't say experience, but unless we are working on the real world, we get the experience. But before that, having some exposure will definitely helpful for people to attend for an interview, so that they will be confident enough. The reason why I am conducting some project-based trainings, domain-based trainings on AML part, right? So ML domain-based trainings I am giving. This is my regular thing now I'm doing. At the same time, I'm providing even some project-based trainings in context to ML, right? So even on machine learning from the domain perspective, right? So machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all that. It's not only technology training, but I'm talking about the domain perspective. So this is not something which I'm giving. So this is all about this video. If you have any queries, if you have any training or teaching needs, any coaching needs, all that, please reach out to the contact details which will be provided in below to this video. Thank you.